Okey. Dia sepanjang surah itu. Sepanjang surah itu sama ada surah Anfal ataupun surah Taubah ataupun dalam surah Ahzab, kan. Jadi ceritanya tu cerita tentang perang. Dan disebutkan bunuhlah orang kafir, bunuhlah Yahudi, bunuhlah musuh orang musyrikin. Dan kalau kita bacakan sirah ataupun sejarah Nabi, peperangan di bulan Ramadan semua gitu gini, kita akan lihat bahawa Islam itu dipenuhi dengan perang. Dan malah kalau bulan puasa ni, bulan Ramadan, sering bila kita lihat ustaz-ustaz bagi ceramah, mereka akan cerita tentang perang Badar, kan? Perang Badar, mereka ceritakan tentang peperangan lain umat Islam menang di bulan Ramadan. Jadi dikatakan Ramadan ni bulan jihad semua. Jadi saya terfikirkan bila semenjak sebelum masuk satu Ramadan sehingga hari ini, banyak insiden dekat Manchester, dekat Jakarta, selatan Thailand, di Marawi City, di Mindanao. Tahun lepas dekat Puchong sendiri, ada bom sana, bom sini. Dan saya cuba lihat balik di yang kumpulan yang melakukan bom dan sebagainya ni, mereka menggunakan ayat-ayat ni. Dan mereka menggunakan cerita-cerita sirah, anekdot daripada sirah. Di bulan Ramadan berlaku perang. Kemenangan umat Islam di bulan Ramadan. Ayat Quran cerita tentang perang begitu begini, kan. Tahu. Jadi siapa tu namanya, lantas saya terfikir, kan, adakah ini yang dimasukkan dengan ayat Quran tu? Ya. Dan adakah ini yang ingin dibawa oleh Islam tu sendiri? Sebab kita sering melaungkan kembali kepada Quran dan Sunnah, kan? Kembali kepada Quran dan hadis, kembali mengikut Rasulullah, mengikut Sunnah. Kita lihat apa yang mereka buat ni. Inilah jihadnya di bulan Ramadan. Mereka bunuh kafir, inilah mereka bunuh kafir. Mereka bunuh musyrik, inilah mereka bunuh musyrik. Mereka nak tegakkan Islam. Jadi bagi kumpulan-kumpulan ini, dia rasakan apa dia buat ini, inilah mengikuti Quran dan inilah mengikuti sunnahnya Nabi SAW. Dan bulan Ramadan, bulan jihad. Jadi dibincangkan, kenapa bila bulan Ramadan saja banyak berlaku insiden seperti ini. Yang paling menyedihkan pada tahun lalu, di Masjid Nabawi sendiri. Ingat kan, sebelum raya tu berlaku letupan. Dan mereka yang lakukan itu pun, mereka memberikan justifikasi terhadap pelakuan mereka bahawa dia kata, inilah jihad di bulan Ramadan. Lalu mereka dipertikaikan, habis kenapa awak bunuh orang Islam dekat Masjid Nabawi lagi? Jadi mereka justifikasi dalam surah Ahzab bilang, Ya ayuhan Nabi, jahidil kufar wa munafiqin. Wahai Nabi, perangilah orang-orang kafir dan juga orang munafik. Jadi dia kata orang-orang ni munafik walaupun mereka Muslim, tetapi mereka tidak beramal dengan Islam sebenar. Jadi doktrin mereka kalau nak beramal dengan Islam sebenar, perlunya ditegakkan Islam secara keseluruhan. Bila sebut Islam, Islam dia katakan bukan hanya pada solat, bukan hanya pada puasa, tetapi juga Islam pada undang-undang, pada hukum. Kalau politiknya mesti ada khalifah, kalau undang-undangnya mesti ada hukum hudud. Dan bila mereka pergi lebih daripada itu, semalam saya terbacakan mengapa kumpulan pengganas ini menawan Marawi City di Filipina, selatan Filipina, di Mindanao. Antara hujah mereka, dia mengatakan di Marawi City ini walaupun penduduknya Muslim, tetapi dia kata maksiatnya banyak. Orang perempuan, dia spesifik dia sebut, orang perempuan bukan sekadar tidak menutup aurat, malah tidak menutup muka. Kan? Dan malah dia kata muzik berkumandang, berlaku begini-begini. Walaupun Marawi City itu merupakan majoriti Muslim, bukan majoriti, memang Muslim City. Non-Muslim begitu sedikit. Kan? Masjidnya banyak dan sebagainya. Saya tak pernah sampai lah. Tapi bila kita baca Marawi City, it's a Muslim population, Muslim populated city in compared to Manila, in compared. Dan dua hari lepas mereka melakukan serangan di salah sebuah pusat hiburan di Manila. Ibaratnya macam dia buat kacau dekat apa tu, IOI Mall apa macam tu kan. Seorang yang bawa senjata dan melakukan apa tu, tembakan secara rambang dan membuat letupan, dan juga mengatakan apa yang dia lakukan itu sebagai jihad. Dia mengambil ayat-ayat daripada surah Taubah, mengambil ayat-ayat daripada surah Anfal, mengambil ayat daripada surah Ahzab, dan mengambil hadis-hadis Nabi yang sebut tentang jihad, yang sebut tentang perang. Dan beliau juga sebut bahawa di bulan Ramadan ni merupakan bulan jihad, kan? So dia kata dia buat adalah bertepatan dengan Quran, dan kita yang tidak pergi berjihad ini, kita tidak mengikuti Quran. Kita seronok-seronok sekadar duduk dalam bilik ada aircon, bincang-bincang sembang gini, dan mereka mengatakan tak, mereka mengangkat senjata berperang dengan orang kafir, mereka mengangkat senjata berperang dengan munafikin, dan mereka mengibarkan panji-panji Islam. Jadi di waktu itu saya terfikirkan, apakah itu sebenarnya ajaran Islam? Boleh kita buka kepada perbincangan. Daripada benda ni berlaku satu hala saja, boleh kita buka kepada perbincangan. Apakah pandangan anda sekalian? How do you know the context? How do you know that certain ayah has its own context? How do we know? Yes? Asbabun Nuzul. Okay. So you are referring to Asbabun Nuzul. How do you know that Asbabun Nuzul is explaining that specific ayah? Dia ustaz-ustaz mengajar sirah dia ambil pada Al-Quran. And the same ustaz, those same asatiza, they were talking about jihad in the months of Ramadan. They were the one who instigating us and igniting in our hearts that we need to perform jihad in Ramadan. And the glory of Islam only will come if we perform jihad. And it's clearly stated in hadith narrated by Imam Bukhari that zirwatu sinamil Islam al-jihad. Al-jihad zirwatu sinamil Islam. The pinnacle of good deeds in Islam, the pinnacle of Islamic deeds in Islamic teaching is jihad. So it's clearly stated, and Rasulullah in one of the hadiths was quoted saying that I was sent to kill the people until they profess that there's no God except Allah and Muhammad is a messenger. Kan? Rasulullah cakap macam gitu. Nabi cakap, aku diutuskan sehingga untuk membunuh orang sehingga dia mengaku bahawa Allah tu Tuhan dan Nabi Muhammad tu. So, what context are we talking about? Kan? Good. We should broaden the meaning of jihad. What is the meaning of jihad? That is the literal meaning of jihad. But jihad that we have been taught, that jihad that we understood in Quran when Rasulullah said, Jahidul kufar wal munafiqin. Ayat Quran mentioned about that. But when certain hadith talking about zirwatu sinamil Islam al-jihad, and when Rasulullah used the word qatilu and kill, is all about war. Is all about killing. And we often hear people, certain ulama and, people are talking about al-jihadu sabiluna. Jihad is our only way. Izzatul Islam bil jihad. And the pride of Islam is only with jihad. And we are in the month of jihad. Yes, strive. Yes, we're talking about sacrifice. And it's all about striving against our nafsu, striving against our desire to maintain living in this world. Whereas jihad is to sacrifice our life. We have to strive to live this worldly life. By picking up arms and fighting those non-Muslims. Ini kalau orang lakam saya setakat ni, I'm going to be in deep shit. Straight away. So, no. What say you about this? Assalamualaikum. What do you think? Yeah? Intersection. What do you mean by intersection? Yeah. Where's the common thing? Okay. No, here there are three things that you highlighted. Number one, brother, what's your name? Brother with pink dress. Mike. Okay, brother Mike said the verses and the hadiths were taken out of context. Number one. Number two, our sister proposed we should broaden. We should broaden the understanding of the word jihad. And our sister was saying that we need to find the intersection between the definitions. Yeah. So don't you making things complicated. Islam is very simple. Islam say jihad, kill the non-Muslim, kill them. Am I right? Hadith say that jihad, the pinnacle of amal, the pinnacle of deeds in Islam is jihad. When hadith said that I was sent, Prophet Muhammad said, I was sent to kill the people until the profess there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger, there's a clear cut. Don't you think there's a straightforward thing about Islam? You're making things complicated. Am I right? It sounds right. Oh. If I don't continue with further explanation, I think PDRM will come and arrest the whole of us. We would spend our Hari Raya inside Sungai Buloh or somewhere else. Kajang. Yeah, for the girls, they're going to Kajang. For the ladies, are going to Kajang. Okay. So it is true. I still remember. There's one anecdote about a friend of mine. Now he's still inside in Singapore. He's a Singaporean. In the 90s, the late 80s, I mean, where, the jihad in Afghan was a kind of, people are looking at it as something to be proud of. Something which is considered as the struggle of the people for liberation. The struggle of Afghan people against the evil Russia, the evil communists. Am I right? Even Rambo went to Russia to fight along with the Mujahideen. You were still young then. Oh, were you born yet? Not yet, okay. The war ended in 1989. Unfortunately, we were not born yet. You were somewhere else. Yeah. So, and I still remember then, jihad was kind of trending. Whenever we heard people going to Afghanistan, performing jihad, even we have a lot of Medina and Makkah university students, during their summer holiday, they did not return to Malaysia, but instead they went to Afghan to perform jihad with the Mujahideen. And those who are performing jihad, they were glorified as, as Mujahideen, as warriors, as somebody that have a kind of status within Muslim community. And even in the UK, in European countries, those who returned from Afghanistan, they were given political asylum by those countries. UK was a hotbed for the Mujahideen. I still remember early 90s, when we were studying abroad, you would see, oh, this one ustaz, this one imam just came back from Afghan. So people will be pouring into his masjid to listen to his khutbah. And all the fiery khutbah will listen from him, and MI6 did not even bother about them. And they were talking about jihad on the pulpit, on the mimbar. They were talking about, the kuffar, but yet they were seeking asylum in the UK, and they got all the benefits from UK government. I still remember one of those preachers, firebrand preachers, who came back from Afghanistan. He couldn't stay in his country, and he went to the UK. He was granted UK nationality, and he was talking against UK government. He was talking against non-Muslims. And BBC and all the foreign medias, they like to pick up his idea. They like to interview him. Not only him and the like. So when they ask him, okay, you're talking about performing jihad against non-Muslim, you're talking about khilafah, you're talking about Dawla Islamiyah, Islamic State and whatnot, but you're staying in the UK. So what do you have to say about this? And he began to say, oh, my stay in the UK is just like my stay inside the toilet. I'm not going to live here forever. Whenever there is an Islamic Caliphate state, whenever there is an Islamic Emirate being declared, I will migrate to that country. Because it is not Islamic, it is not halal, it is not Shari to stay in the state who does not implement Islam. I cannot stay in a state who doesn't believe in hudud. For them, no. We must try our best, we must perform our jihad to re-erect Islamic State, to re-erect hudud, and to establish Khalifa. This kind of discourse, it was there. They were there. But yet, nobody bothered in the early 90s. So what happened? One of our friends in Singapore, I still remember, he said that, oh, I want to die as a martyr. I want to die as a shaheed. Yeah. Of course, everybody wants to die as a shaheed. When we listen to the rewards that have been promised to shaheed in Quran, what is greater than that? Entering heaven without hisab, entering heaven, and while waiting to enter the heaven, our soul will be put inside the green birds flying around the Arash. Those kind of things. Who doesn't want to go to heaven? But we asked them, so what? How? He said, I'm going to jihad. So he went to Mindanao, he went to southern Philippines and got married to his second and third wife in Mindanao and Philippines, in southern Thailand, and eventually he went to Afghanistan. I still remember. He refused to join the national service, and if you refuse to join the national service in Singapore, you'll be detained. It's considered as a crime against the country, against the state, against the nation. It's a betrayal because you don't want to serve your nation. So this guy, when he was waiting for the MP, the military police to come, he was ready with his parang. He said, whenever those soldiers come in, I will slaughter them. So when I got killed, I will die as a shaheed. This is crazy. So eventually he went to Afghanistan, and he was caught there by American Army and was sent to Guantanamo Bay. And from Guantanamo, Singapore has managed to get his, what they call it, apa tu namanya? There's a political term for it. Anyway, Singapore government has managed to take him back to Singapore, and until today, he's still inside the prison, detention camp. So what happened was, I still remember, this guy, he was interpreting Quran. He used a translated version of Quran in Bahasa or in English then, and he was interpreting it as if he's a Mufassir, as if he's Ibn Abbas. So he said, oh, look, in Quran mention about this, mention about jihad, is a clear cut. So he said, hey, that was not the interpretation of Quran. That was not the correct understanding of Quran. He said, why? Because we heard that Ustad saying this, that scholar saying that, Dr. Yusuf Qaradawi saying this, Dr. Wabah Zuhaili saying that, you know, the Sheikh Abdullah bin Baya was explaining different interpretation of it. He said, oh, no, I don't believe in those scholars. He said, why? Because those scholars are scholars for dollars. We don't believe in those scholars. The moment they work with the government, the moment they work at the universities, that's it. They are co-opted. He said, the moment they agree with the government, that's it. They are agreeing with kafir, with the munafiqeen, you cannot trust them anymore. How come you could trust them to interpret the words of God when they themselves were unfaithful towards their principle? Yeah. So who are you following? He said, I'm following Quran and Sunnah. Khalas. You know, khalas. That's it. Kita ikut Quran dan Sunnah. But how do you understand Quran and Sunnah? They've all been translated. Number one. Number two, we only follow, he said, we only follow those who are in the field of jihad. So for him, only the interpretation of scholars like, whom he called scholars, Abdullah Azam, Usama bin Laden, Abu Ayman Zawahiri, and all those names that he quoted, okay, their books have been translated. So we only follow them. Why? Because they are the only people who really understand the words of God, because they are on the field and they really live with their principles. I still remember when I was doing this rehab program or counseling program to those detainees, I said that actually that was not the interpretation. Okay, you have your scholars, we have our scholars. I said, who are your scholars? Those scholars are in the field of jihad. So I asked them, how do you know that those are scholars? You call them scholars? Who certified them as scholars? Number one. And number two, actually it's not about their interpretation. They are only our instructors. The scholars only our guidance, our facilitators. We need to understand Quran to be interpreted by Quran. Quran interpreted by Hadith. And Hadith interpreted by the companions. And how do we know that the companions are saying such and such? Because companions have their own disciples. And their disciple has their own disciples. So that is why we need to refer to the authority in knowledge. When we talk about authority in knowledge, it's about the tradition. We have the tradition of tafsir. How do we know the tradition of tafsir? We have various books of tafsir that has been produced by scholars in the past, and it has its continuity to scholars in the present days. So, not only that, that is the case of not interpreting Quran and Sunnah literally. I still remember in the UK when I was attending a workshop along with some ex-Mujahideen and some secret service officers and some so-called, I don't want to call them liberals because sometimes the word liberal has been totally misunderstood, but I would rather calling them susah juga nak kata apa Tapi kalau kita boleh katakan, you know, in Christianity we have Catholic Church and we have the Protestant kan. I would like to call them the Protestant Muslims tau sebenarnya. The word liberal Muslim is very misleading because the word liberal, it has its positive connotation when it comes to politics. Our political system is a liberal political system. Economy, we practice liberal economy. Yeah. And we're talking about liberalism itself has its many bright sides. For example, the slavery has been abolished due to the liberal understanding of civil rights. Okay. So for these people, sometimes I think they should be known as Protestant Muslims rather than liberal Muslims, because the word liberal is very misleading. Okay. So these Protestant Muslims were there too. So they were saying about, oh, we should allow Quran to be reinterpreted. They are echoing what the Christian Protestant has been calling since the Reformation Day, kan? Ataupun since the Enlightenment days. Okay. Jadi dia kata, oh, kita kena tafsir. We need a modern interpretation of Quran. We need the interpretation that is suitable with the complicated century we are living in. So, remember then, some of us were saying, yes, we agree with that, but it must be according to the discipline. It must be according to the tradition. Because if there is no holds barred, you ended up becoming like the terrorists. The terrorists, the similarities between the terrorists and these Protestant Muslims, they are calling for the same thing. The liberal interpretation, not liberal, the free interpretation of Quran. The only difference is those terrorists, when they are interpreting the Quran, they are resorting to the literal interpretation of Quran. And the case with the Protestant Muslims, they are resorting towards their own interpretation of Quran. Okay, the similarities too is, the similarity between the two is their rejection of the tradition and their rejection of the authority. Okay, but we must be cautious. When talking about authority, we're talking about tradition, there are certain people, when they say that, okay, we only accept the authority, we only accept the tradition, but they're becoming jumud. They're becoming stagnant. So for them, whatever being interpreted by the scholars of the past, because they are the authority, we must take them literally. Aha. So they have the similarity with the terrorists now. The terrorists, for them, they're taking the literal meaning of Quran. But for those traditionalists, those stagnant traditionalists, they're taking the literal meaning of the interpretation of Quran. Okay. Jadi, they are trapped in certain century mentality of the interpretation of Quran. When they're talking about, for example, the relation between Muslims and non-Muslims, they're taking whatever being uttered by the scholars of the past since 1400 years ago, or since 13 or maybe 1200 years ago, they're taking it literally. Although those scholars, when they're coming out with their interpretation, yes, they have certain understanding of the interpretation of the Quran by the companions, by the student of a companion, tabi'in, but again, they are reflecting to the situation they are living with. Sebab tu ayat Quran bila disebutkan afala ta'qilun, afala tubsirun, it's not about you understanding it by your own understanding. No, it's about reflecting. It's about reflection. You reflect. You understand the Quran, you understand the hadith, and you reflect to your situation. And one thing about the scholars, how do they reflect those ayah to their situation? How do they reflect the hadith to their context? Is through the understanding of Allah. Is through the understanding of underlying causes in all those Quran and all those hadith texts. That's number one. And number two, through the what is underlying causes? What is Allah? Allah, apa sebab hukum itu? Hukum itu ada sebabnya. Maka bila ada sebabnya itu ada hukum. Bila tak ada sebab, tak ada hukum. Contohnya bagaimana? Kita ambil bab jihad lah. Because we're talking about jihad. The elah of the verses, the underlying causes of the verses, the underlying cause of the cause when Rasulullah when Quran said Jahidil kuffar wal munafiqin, when Rasulullah said I was ordered to kill the people until the prophets kan, itu the underlying cause for that is there is a war between Muslim and non-Muslims. The ayah was revealed during the war. Rasulullah SAW said that hadith. Dia tekak kering ni, kalau bulan biasa boleh minum ni. Minum ni telan air liur kan. Jadi hadis tu yang Rasulullah sebut tu, the hadith that Rasulullah SAW mentioned, not as a capacity Rasulullah SAW as Rasul or as Imam or as a husband or as a father or as a teacher. No. But it was in a situation Rasulullah SAW as a general, as an army general. And you know when you watch some war movies, Braveheart, you still remember the movie Braveheart? Kan, where Mel Gibson was acting as William Wallace. Kan, masa tu the Scottish were standing. They were small in number. They were smaller in number against the English army, with their kings, with their barons, with, you know, the huge number of army. And the Scottish nearly retreat. They nearly leave the war zone. And then William Wallace came. And so remember what he said. You can find it on YouTube. He said, okay, you fear of death, you go back home, you leave your family, one day you will die. Is either on your bed or somewhere else. Death is something that you cannot run away from it. But we have a choice now. Either we die today with dignity and with freedom, or we go back, or we die later, but with nothing. Let's give a try. If we win, we win. But if we die with honor. If we win now, we get something that we could never get if we go back home, which is freedom. So he said, kill them. He said, never give mercy on them. Slaughter them, you know, those kind of things. So in a battle zone, it's different. He said, although Rasulullah, when he released army, he said, okay, don't kill women, don't kill children, don't pluck trees, don't put this, don't do that. That was before he released the army. But in a battle zone, when you see the enemy, the language is different. You cannot say, okay, give mercy to them. If they pledge apology, let them go. No. No way. Not in any war people will do that. Yeah. Even in a football field, yeah. Even a football field, you know, what normally the captain or the manager will say, you know, don't give mercy. We must win in this match. Don't, you know, whenever you, this is our only chance. Whenever you see the goalpost, make it your last kick or whatever. You know, that kind of mentality. So that is the case of ayat Quran, the Quranic verses, and that is the case of certain hadith. So that is why we cannot just easily quote that hadith or that verses out of the context. That's what he said. Betul lah, betul. Saja je aku say tadi. To further explain it. So this is dangerous because nowadays we are living in the period where people are no longer talking about the dialing modem. We are no longer living in a period where people waiting for a letter to arrive you after a week or a month. We are no longer living in a period where you send card Hari Raya card. Today you only receive it after 2 weeks of Raya. We are living in a period within a split second. People can communicate although they are living, you know, how many million miles away. Even people who live, you know, beyond our atmosphere, could communicate with us in a live feed. So people have no patience. So the tendency to resort to the tendency to resort to fast decision. The tendency to resort to a fast decision, the tendency to resort to literal interpretation of things is greater. Orang tak nak ni. Orang semua nak fast. Fast food. Kan, nak cepat. Pergi beratur, tengok beratur panjang. Oh, apalah. Kita pula dah pukul 7. Patut non-Muslim kena respect. Kena give way to us. You know, that's very stupid. Kan? Kemudian, and all those arguments, kita nampak dah panjang. Tak boleh, kita nak cepat lagi. Kawan, send message. Kan? Wah, kita tunggu seminit dia tak reply. Half an hour tak reply. After an hour tak reply. Kita pun terus kata, where are you? What are you doing? Especially when you are in love. Itu lagi lah. Every second counted. Okay. Still remember that long time ago. Okay, so yeah, you still have that opportunity. Jadi orang dah tak sabar, hilang sabar. People begin to forget the word forbearance. People begin to forget the word patient. People begin to forget the word think twice. Sebab tu baru ni saya bincang ni agak keluar sikit. It's nothing to do about jihad. A lot of, I'm sorry to say this if it happened to you, but I'm talking about data. The divorce cases among younger generation, especially those who are under 35 years old, this became rampant nowadays. So remember meeting some of my former students. I thought the last time we heard that you were married to this girl and you were married to that guy, and no, I remarried. What? No, I'm a single parent now. What? And you're only, in your early 30s. Yeah. But that is the reality. So I was discussing this with few friends who are dealing with these issues. They say that, nowadays, women are more independent. Men are becoming lesser men. and people resort to fast decision. They don't think twice in making decision. So, and a lot of other factors, and Ustaz Abdul Razak. Silakan Ustaz. Okay. So this result, or this contributed towards that kind of situation. In compared to the past, the time where, women were very depending on men, or, people are not really, don't really dare to make decision in a split second. Nowadays we have a just do it. Just do it, no limits, this kind of mentality. But then people would think twice. They would think about a lot of things. They put into consideration every single tits and bits. But that is the situation. And the same goes to jihad. The same goes to jihad. I still remember asking those detainees, about 30 of them, saying that, why did you decide to go to Syria? He said, people are dying there. Yes. Assad regime is killing people, women being raped, children being slaughtered. Look what they have done. So we need to do something, because at the end of the day, Allah will question us. What have we done for our brothers and sisters in Syria? What should we answer? But I asked them, but you ended up inside the prison. You cannot do anything. He said, but at least when we stand before God, we would say that we have tried our best, but we ended up here. So I asked them, what is the distance between you guys and Syria? Is it, thousand of miles? Okay. What is the distance then between you and those people who are living at PPRT somewhere at Wangsa Maju. But what is the distance between you and orang asli who live in Batu 16, Batu 12 in Gombak? What is the distance between you and orang asli who live at, Cameron Island, in Gua Musang, or maybe those who live in rural places in Sabah and Sarawak? Is it, they're closer to us? Don't you think that before Allah SWT question you or ask you, what have you done to save your brothers and sisters in Syria, don't you think that He will ask you, what have you done in spreading Islam to those people first? Because they're closer to you. And in Quran, Allah said, La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wusaha. Allah will never burden you with things that you're not able to prosecute it. You're not able to complement it. You're not able to do it. Don't you think that that will be the priorities that Allah will question you? And they begin to ponder. Kan, dia baru nak fikir. Dulu dia tak sempat nak fikir. Sebab nak fikir cepat aja. Nak fast decision. Dia fikir, nak buat apa ni? Kita kena buat sesuatu. And then they found on Facebook, on YouTube, oh, ada Malaysian chapter of ISIS. Kan? Or they pun begin in replying to certain posts. Kan? Oh, reply, and people reply back. And people personal message, that private message, personal private message, whatever it is, people PM them. Okay? And they got into a closed group discussion about, oh, we have people who have gone there, or they are already there inside that closed group. And they were sharing all their stories, all their rosy pictures about jihad in Syria. Look, I'm holding M16. Look, I'm holding the Kalashnikov. Look, I'm with the rocket launcher. Look, I'm on the tank of Syrian army. And those heroic pictures will ignite more, will instigate more the fire within their hearts. When they see the pictures of their friends holding all those weapons on the tanks and shooting the Assad army or whatever, they cannot see their friends' faces there. They could see their face there. They want to be the hero. They want to be part of it. All this while they only play Dota. Again, they only play Strike Force. But their friends are already in a battlefield. So, whatever hadith, whatever Quran being given to them, they won't think twice anymore. They won't think twice. That's it. This verse is talking about us. This verse is addressing us. That ayah or that hadith is talking about us. Whenever whenever the Satiza or Ustaz ni making the tazkirah or making the ceramah about jihad in Ramadan, it's actually about us. Our friends are there. They are enjoying. They are picking up the fruits. They are in the battlefield. So we should too. So they begin to communicate. But we cannot go. Nowadays it's difficult to go to Syria, what should we do? And their friends over there, we say that, oh, our Khalifa, Abu Bakr Baghdadi, has endorsed a new fatwa. He said that anybody who couldn't go, anybody who couldn't come to Syria, they should perform their jihad in their homeland. They need to kill the munafikin, the kuffar. They need to make bombing at the pusat maksiat. They can kill the soldiers and the police officers. Why? Because they are munafikin. They are munafik. They work for the kafir system. So if you perform jihad in your homeland,